Good evening, everybody. How are we doing tonight? So, because we're doing something a little bit different this Tuesday Hangout, I'm going to need to do a few little kind of tests just to make sure everything's working. So, if you can hear me, please drop us a comment. Hear you music, loud and clear. Voice good, no music. Music is on, music may be a bit low. Sound is good. Right. Put the music up a little bit, just a little tiny bit. How about that? How's that for everyone? I am happy with the levels, voice and music. Excellent. Seems good to me. Sweet. So, let's get cracking then. So, first of all, good evening everybody. Welcome to the Warploque Tuesday night stream. And today we're going to be trying something a little bit different. So, for those of you who might not be aware, last week I launched my Patreon digital workshop, which is going to be a way for me to create digital miniatures that you can print at home if you have a 3D printer. It's a completely new thing for me. It's something I've been kind of getting to grips with over the course of the quarantine and such, and I felt I got to a point where I was happy with what I was producing and decided to put it out to the public, and it's been going really, really well so far. I think last time I checked we had 42 backers, or patrons I think they're called, which is incredible. So if you are one of my patrons, thank you very much. It's amazing that you've decided to join on board with me so early on in my digital career. And to kind of celebrate that, I decided that tonight, rather than working on something that I'd been working on for Arcwood, I would be making something for Digital Workshop. Now, for you guys who are on the Patreon, you will have seen me kind of do a poll to ask what kind of creature you would like the goblins to be mounted upon. And the big winners were wolves and also a creature of my own design. And I've been working on the wolf today. I posted it on my personal Facebook page, but I haven't updated the Patreon yet, just because I've been wanting to get ready for the stream. But I'm really happy with how the wolf turned out. I've done a test print as well, and the test prints come out really good. Definitely happy with that. So tonight I thought I would be working on the other thing. So the other creature that I will be mounting my goblins upon. Now for this design, I haven't done any concept art or anything for it, because if I'm doing commissions for people, generally I tend to do a piece of concept art first. But seeing as this is for my own range, I like to kind of make it up as I go along. I find the process of sculpting a lot more exciting if I haven't got a real fixed idea kind of written down or drawn. But yeah, so today I'll be working on that. So what I'm going to be trying to do is almost like a kind of a mainly insectoid creature. I'm actually thinking of something like a gigantic flea of some kind. So imagine like a little goblin hanging on top, kind of as it's hopping over the battlefield. As I said, something a little bit more off the wall in terms of concepts. But if you are more of a traditionalist in terms of your goblins, the June pack will include the wolves as well. So you'll be able to mount the goblins on whichever beastie you so desire, and I won't be putting any kind of tack or saddles and stuff on them. The goblins will be riding them kind of saddleless, so they will be able to be used as just normal beasts in your games as well. So before we get cracking, I'm just going to check the chat, see if there's any questions or comments. Bit of chat of what people are doing. Yeah, of course, hear my stuff okay. Even from sunny Winchester. Music on. Excellent. Well, I think this might be the first time that I've actually been able to get the voice and music pretty much bang on straight away. So, good evening, everyone. I need to speak to you about that. I backed it on the 30th and Patreon charged me twice. Well, don't worry. If that has happened to you, if you get in contact with me either through Facebook or on the Patreon, I'll be refund you anything from that. Anabolic, are you fully transitioning to digital sculpting? No. So the plan is I'm going to be doing both. So certain ranges will be traditionally sculpted, certain ranges will be digitally sculpted. The plan is that for Arcworld, at least for the current version in like the narrative fantasy battle game, all the models will be handmade with putty, traditional sculpting. That's something that I'm very, very keen to keep on board. Because, not many people do it anymore. It's a bit of a dying art, and it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. And I know a lot of my customers are very passionate about my hand-sculpted work. So Arcworld will always be hand-sculpted. For additional game modes, I may produce digital files of like pieces of terrain or various different tokens and things like that, maybe like movement trays and stuff, kind of accessories to the game, maybe digital downloads perhaps for people to kind of get access to, but the actual core models themselves will be handmade. But for my other ranges, so Digital Workshop, clues in the name, obviously that will be ZBrush digital sculpting, and for Warp Team Fantasy Football, I'm quite excited to potentially do my next team in ZBrush, because it'll be a bit of a new challenge for me. So yeah, so to answer your question in a more succinct way, I'm going to be keeping up with both. Same here, I was charged twice but keep hold of it. I'm not bloody hell, like someone did warn me about this, but if just as a word out there, guys, if you have been charged twice, like I did, I was meant to launch it on the 1st of May, but I wanted to kind of get some feedback and stuff like that, and I may have got a little bit carried away. So if you have been charged twice, please do get in contact with me and I will refund you your money entirely. So back to ZBrush. So I think I've kind of got something I've doing a little bit differently this time around. I've got ZBrush on my main computer, but I've also kind of keeping an eye on the chat and stuff like that on my laptop, where I can kind of see the screen and stuff like that. So it looks like everything is going well. So let's get cracking. So to start off with, we have this ball here. Now this is kind of how most projects in ZBrush start off with. Like you open it up and then you go to here and you can choose a number of things. I just chose one of these dynamic things here. I quite like sculpting in the red. So to start off with, we're going to try and get the kind of the shape. So fleas are kind of oval but flat. So this section here, this is the deformation panel, and this allows you to essentially do various things to whatever kind of shape you have selected. So I'll be using the size, and you can kind of expand it in various different axes. So because I want it kind of long and thin, I will only expand it in the Z axis. So Z is from right to left, at least for the way that I'm looking at the shape. Z is from right to left, Y is obviously up and down, and the X is kind of back and forth. So, but So you can see here, like it's kind of like a bit like a kind of a tablet shape, but because fleas are quite thin, what I'm going to do is thin it down in the x-axis. So you end up with something like this. Now, one of the things that I've really enjoyed about ZBrush when sculpting my creatures, at least, is something that we don't have the pleasure of using traditionally sculpting, that is being able to mirror what you're working on. So activate symmetry, so this is currently activated on the y-axis. So I'm just going to choose a different brush, use one of my favourites, which is Damp Standard. But you can see if I doodle on this side, because it's mirrored, it does the same on this side. Because normally when I'm doing a model, at least a creature, where it does very much have like a left and right side, so you can't see one or the other, I tend to kind of sculpt one side entirely, whilst kind of coming up with the idea and the concept. It's also a lot better to kind of take pictures of, because like you show a picture of the model and go, this is what I'm making, but you don't have to let them know that the other side is actually still just bare putty. So it's a good way to kind of get proof of concept first, before then spending the time to sculpt the other side. And sculpting the other side is never as fun, because you've already done it. You've already created the look of the model. Whereas with ZBrush, you don't have to do that, because everything you can do to one side, it just completely mirrors it on the other. So it's really, really handy in that respect. So first of all, let's cracking on with the shape. So I'm going to be using the Move tool. So Move, it just essentially allows you to press and move about the putty. I use this one quite a lot because it is quite similar to actual putty pushing. So to start off with, I'm going to reduce that. So I'll use a bigger brush to kind of get that kind of back end. So widen the head a little bit. So another thing that's really great in ZBrush, which is another thing that's quite similar in traditional sculpting, is if you hold down the Shift key, it turns the brush into smooth. So I can kind of smooth corners and stuff like that. So say if I did that, I can smooth that back, and it's really quite useful. So now that I've got the rough shape of what I want the flea to be, like, I think I'll maybe bring this back a little bit more, thinking having the goblin roughly around here to sit on, almost like a natural saddle there. Might bring that up a little bit like that. I'm going to Dynamesh it. So what Dynamesh is essentially, because the way that that ZBrush works is that it's essentially, imagine it's like a hollow shape made up of polygons, and if I zoom in, you can see all these little polygons here. And what Dynamesh does is, if you've been working on something, you can essentially reskin the whole shape with a new mesh. So it kind of takes into account what you've done, because sometimes when you're working on something, especially when the mesh is quite small, so there's not that many little shapes making up the overall shape, it can kind of not tear but become quite distorted. So if I can show you this, so yeah, that's a perfect example. So because there are not that many polygons in this shape, I pulled it out, and the polygons have kind of stretched, and we went for this very kind of geometric shape here, which is not very nice, especially not for an organic creature. So to get around this, what you do, or at least what I do, what I've been taught to do, is dynamesh it. So I put on polish, that kind of makes it everything's nice and smoothed over, and turn it off and turn it back on. And there we go. So you see that the mesh has kind of been uniformly shaped all over the shape. The once kind of really like sharp thing has kind of been smoothed down, and because I don't really need that, I'll use the smooth just to kind of get rid of it. And now, because we're still kind of bulking it out, obviously things run a lot quicker when it's a much smaller number of meshes. So just while I'm really just bulking on the main detail, I'll be keeping it quite a small mesh, but once we're going into the details, that's when I'll be starting to really make those individual polygons so small that you can't really even see it. So if we zoom out again, you can see we have the kind of the main shape of the flea. Now, one of the things I use to kind of build up the shape is this tool called Clay Builder, and that essentially just adds mass to the sculpt. So the reason why it's looking still quite kind of pixelated is that I am still working on a very low mesh count. But you can see, once again, it's kind of on both sides, and I build it up, then smooth it down, just the same as I was if I was using putty. And that's something that I'm really trying to do with ZBrush, and I haven't been using it for that long. Like, I first started using it kind of at, when was it? It was about the end of March, start of April. It was around when the lockdown in the UK first really happened. And the reason why I started was because I was meant to be going to Adepticon in Chicago, and obviously that was cancelled, and I was heartbroken because it was my big kind of American trip. So I decided to kind of utilise my time constructively, even though I wasn't able to go. And that's when I took the plunge to get cracking with ZBrush. And it's been something that's been suggested to me for a very, very long time, by many, many different people, but I've been quite stubborn in the past because traditional sculpting's for me, and I had a play about with it, but it was never something that I really took to. But that was a time when I really decided to sit down and be like, nope, this is it, I'm doing this. And I really, really enjoyed it. And it was actually a gentleman by the name of Dan Kelly from Lion Tower Miniatures. He was the guy that was like, dude, you really have to try this, like, it's really, really good. He's a very good digital sculptor himself, and he has been amazingly helpful over my learning period. I mean, obviously I'm still learning now, but when I first started, he was very much on the other end of the Facebook message, giving me tips and things like that, and he's definitely one of the reasons why I was able to take to it so quickly. So Dan, if you are listening, thank you very much. And if you guys want to check out his Patreon, Lion Tower Miniatures, I believe it's called the Adventurers Guild, definitely check his stuff out. He's a very, very good sculptor. So now that I've kind of built the overall shape, I'm going to start drawing in with the dam standard. So the way the dam standard works, it kind of draws a groove into the putty, like you can see there. It like kind of tapers to a very fine point, and I've found that this is the most similar to what it would be like if I was using an actual sculpting tool. So when I'm working on a traditional sculpt, this is a very similar to the effect that I get when I draw into wet putty, so it's one of the ones that I've naturally gravitated towards. Now obviously, if you look at the tools palette, there are 1,000,001 different kind of tools, and these are just the basic ones. You can download so many different brushes and things to use, but I try to stick to the basic ones. So I'm just using it to draw in just some detail. I won't be doing too much at the moment, just because I'll probably kind of bulk out the other kind of legs and things like that. But just to kind of give you an idea of what I've got in mind. So there's the kind of the basis of the head. Now I'm not too sure whether to give him kind of like, I think I kind of want to give him like a little mouth. So to do that, I will use the clay build-up. And then one of the other things you can do on ZBrush is if you press Alt, it kind of does the opposite of what the brush does. So for example, if I'm using the clay build-up tool, and it builds up clay, but if I press Alt, it takes it away. So I'll be using that just to kind of remove a lot of the substance from the mouth. Now, I quite like those little teeth. Like, I wasn't actually planning on that, but now that that's been done, I think I might keep it. As the great Bob Ross says, happy little accidents. Yeah, so that'll kind of be worked on back to damn standard, and I'll just use that to carry on like that. So you kind of get the beginnings of like a chitinous shell. And then I'm thinking about keeping the rest of the body quite kind of gooey and organic. So now that the basic kind of shape of the body has been worked on, I'm going to start with the legs. So if you look on here, this is the subtools. So these are essentially all the different components of the model. You don't have to build everything on one tool. You can kind of split it up into different layers, very similar to Photoshop. If you've used Photoshop before, any other kind of image-based software. So to get to work on the legs, I shall insert another sphere. And once again, I will go to deformation. And because I want this will be like the back legs of the flea, so I want it to be very, very long and thin. So I'll be selecting the Z and the X axis. So that's kind of that way and kind of that way. And then, oh, I forgot to actually select it. I always make that mistake. I always never select the new subtool. So once again, X and Z, and that shrinks it down like that, so make it nice and thin. And then I shall do the opposite with the Y-axis and make it nice and big. So if I zoom out there, you can kind of see where I'm going from. Obviously I'll be building it up and stuff like that, but that's always a good place to start. Now to move it, I kind of click on move, and you can faff about with this tool here. Is quite difficult, but one of the easy things that I learned is if you hold on to Alt, you can just kind of click and drag it around, which is quite useful. So I think I'll give him 6 legs. So probably attach the back legs around here. And then I'll rotate, behave. So I'll rotate that leg kind of back here like that. And if I go back to draw, and go on to the move tool again, and then let's make that really big, and then I think I'll kind of shift things around like that. Now this is far too long for what I eventually want to do. And I'll build that up once I start really trying to add detail. But for now, I'm just gonna just trim it a little bit like that. Actually, no, I want to give it a little bit more. So kind of like this. Then I'll use clay build up. Just need to adjust something first. So because obviously we're essentially working on shapes that are balloons with nothing inside, sometimes when you're stretching and twisting things like that, it can stretch and twist things on the other side. So to stop that from happening and just to work on one side of the balloon that you're working on, just click this back face mask here. So that allows me to so you see here, this is another example where the polygons have been really stretched here, because obviously I had to start off with that ball and I stretched it really long. So what I'll need to do is Dynamesh that again. So back onto polish. And there we go. So that now I can start building up the size of those legs. And then I'm probably going to add little clawed feet on the end. So next I'll add the next two legs. So I'll probably duplicate this, go on to move, and I think I will go on deformation, and I'll mirror it. Wrong axis, Z axis that I want. So pop that in there, then go back to draw. Now I'm gonna trim this down a little bit because I only want little cute front legs. I think that's roughly what I was thinking of, make them a little bit smaller. Make them a bit more chunky, so I'm going to be using the inflate tool here just to bring that size up a little bit. Then duplicate that again, go on to move, bring that down, and then I'll be rotating it. So bit like this, probably bring it out like that. I think I'm gonna make the leg a little bit bigger as well. Because obviously, when I make this ready to be 3D printed, I'm going to make sure there's like enough support to the model so that it's easy for you guys to print off and stick to a base and stuff like that. Because obviously if you just had it like this, it'd be very top heavy, so I'm probably going to be adding some bits of terrain and stuff like that, just as I would with a normal sculpt, a normal traditional sculpt, just to make it so that it's a lot more sturdier in real life. So with that, we've pretty much got the basic outline of the monster flea. Now I'm leaning towards calling it a Sproinger, just because I quite like the name. But if you have any questions, let me know. So now we've kind of reached this point, I'm gonna look and see what's been going on in the chat. Thank you very much, Lord Maiden and Ans, even though they're messed up a bit on the Patreon. Thank you very much. Dagfin is asking, so going into digital sculpting, can you describe the difference from a traditional sculpt to someone who only uses putty for gap filling? Now, I'm not too sure what you mean. I mean, obviously, like there's a ton of difference between digital sculpting and traditional sculpting. Like, with digital sculpting, you're working with a medium that you essentially have unlimited access to. One of the big things that makes things a lot easier for digital is that you can zoom in as much as you want. So you can work right up here if you really wanted to. Whereas if you were working on model using normal sculpting, you are set on it being tiny, 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 so you need to be, I guess, a lot more careful. But there is a downside to this. So one of the things that I've noticed in a lot of digital sculpts is that because you don't really have, if you're not already a miniatures specialist, you don't really have that kind of sense of what works when printed out at such a small scale. Because a lot of the models that I see are obviously incredible pieces of artwork, and they're very, very, very talented. But when you print it, especially if you're printing it at home on a home 3D printer, a lot of that incredible detail is completely lost because you're printing something, 30mm high or an inch high, so scaled down it just doesn't work. Whereas I feel like, obviously when you're working on a traditional sculpt, it's at the scale that you're wanting to work on. So you can tell what works, what doesn't work, because you've got it in your hands. And that's a skill that you kind of learn. I felt like I've kind of got used to that over the years, so I know what work. I feel like, at least for my particular sculpting style, I know how much detail to put into it. But that's another benefit of digital sculpting, that you can print it at many, many different scales if you want, whereas with a traditional sculpt it's fixed. So that's something that's just quite exciting, that I'm looking forward to kind of playing with it in the future, potentially looking at doing some busts and things like that. Another thing is that it's a lot easier to tweak and adapt to digital sculpts. Like if you sculpt a traditional model, go get it cast and things like that. Normally, if you want to make any changes, you've got to adapt the cast, send it back to the caster, and it's a lot more of a difficult situation. Whereas with digital sculpts, if you print it out and it's not quite right, just tweak the model and pop it back on the printer and get it print off another copy. So yeah, I feel like I'm rambling now, but there's lots of different pluses and negatives and things like that. But it's something that I'm quite looking forward to discovering, because I am still very much a beginner when it comes to digital sculpting. Like as I was telling you guys before, I've just been doing it pretty much over a month, so I feel like I still have so much more to learn. So thank you for your question, Dagfin. And I've never seen this done before. It's really cool. And thank you. Hope you're enjoying it so far. My dad's in the chat. Hello, Dad. The Fomorian. It's impressive how your unique style, characteristic from offline sculpting, very nice, I like that term, is also noticeable in your digital sculpting models also. Thank you very much. Give a big thank you for the Warploque team. Thank you very much. My mum and dad have been working really, really hard on getting the Kickstarter fulfilled. So you guys who've backed the Kickstarter, if you have received your models in good order, thank you very much to my mum and dad. Blue Gloves, hello from Texas. Howdy, Blue Gloves. Jacko's in the chat. Dagfin, come to think of it, didn't you make a flea back in your uni days? Actually, it was before my uni days, so it was actually one of my projects for my A-level art exam, or coursework, should I say. So for you guys not from the UK, A-levels is from the ages of 16 to 18, so before you go to university essentially, and that was around the time that I first launched Warploque, and one of the models I worked on was like a kind of I believe that's what it was. Yeah, it's like a kind of a flea rider thing, and that's actually one of the inspirations that I chose to make this. So it's kind of like a homage to my teenage self. Florian, that is a very good point. I think that's totally right. I think sculpt with a printer at home, they will learn that. Oh, absolutely. Like it is, like I must admit, having a 3D printer available for me on my desk has been such a benefit with my learning process, because if I try something out, I can literally run a quick print. It doesn't have to be amazing because you can change the settings, so obviously the more layers you put in, the longer it takes, but the more detailed the print is. But if you're just working out the kind of the scale or stuff like that, like you can get a print run off in like an hour. Just kind of leave it buzzing away whilst you're working, or go have your tea or something, and then it's really, really good to kind of get that almost immediate feedback. So that kind of negates one of the negative parts of digital sculpting. Dagfin was mainly how it was to work with me. Well, thank you very much for your comments, guys. If you do have any more questions whilst I'm working, please do comment in the chat, and I'll kind of be periodically checking over the course of the next hour and a half or so. And my plan is probably about 2 hours streaming. Probably log off at about 10, but I'm hopefully going to be breaking the back of the sculpt and probably finish it off over the next few days. So for those of you who aren't on the Patreon, this is going to be part of the next release, so June's release, where I'll be kind of sculpting additional characters for the Goblin Warband, which I launched last week. So yeah, and then after that, unless there's a real outcry for more Goblin content, I'll probably be moving on to a new topic. And I have something quite exciting planned. Right, so back to the sculpt. So now that I'm working on the details, I'll be increasing the resolution of the Dynamesh. So back to draw. Oop. Just kind of. Oop. What's going on here? Not sure what's going on there. But that has reminded me to save the project. So those Wolf 1 and 2 that I've been working on today. So this guy will be called Flea 1. So that's been saved. Whew. That's why I dynameshed the wrong subtool. Yeah, so if any of you guys are actually masters of ZBrush, you're probably finding a lot of what I'm doing absolutely infuriating. Like, I feel like my skills with it are still quite clunky. Ooh. Like, I'm still kind of learning the interface and things like that. I am getting there, but there's always more to learn. So back to damn standard. Just be increase. Actually, that circle's rubbish. Ooh, don't know what happened there. Just kind of smooth that down. Make it nice and deep. So a few of you might be wondering why I'm not using kind of more geometric shapes and stuff like that, and that is a conscious decision. So one of the benefits of digital sculpting is that you do have access to a lot of perfect geometrical shapes, like circles and things. Are very good for kind of lots of technical things, and like the people who I have seen use it do make these incredibly perfect looking models. But one of the things that I really want to try and do with my digital stuff is emulate the style of my handmade stuff. And one of the, I suppose, the good things, I'll say, the features of handmade things is that they're not completely perfect. So there's always going to be little imperfections, things aren't going to be perfectly square or perfectly round, and that's something that I want to, I guess, carry on with my digital stuff. So even though it's made digitally, I want to keep that handmade feel, because I feel like it's very much part of my style. Back a bit. So taking a little bit of inspiration from a prehistoric creature called a Dunkleosteus, which is a bony fish from, I can't remember the exact name of the particular era it came from. But I'm using that as a kind of an inspiration for this kind of head and biting apparatus here. Apparatus? I'm not sure which is the right way to say it. So back to the clay build-up. Kind of bring some depth to that mouth. So have the mouth there, probably put a little tongue in. There we go. you can see it's starting to pixelate quite a lot, so I think I'm going to increase the Dynamesh a tad. There we go, very nice. Back to the dam standard, just kind of draw a bit more detail in there. Use the clay build up. Just smooth that back. So pretty quickly I'm getting quite a nice little head. I think he's looking quite cute. So because I'm wanting to keep the vast majority of his body quite kind of fleshy, so you have the kind of the chitinous parts at the top. And then there'll be lots of kind of fleshy bits underneath. I think Now, I don't know whether to kind of keep his eyes nice and round like that, or actually no, I think he looks quite nice, a little bit grumpy. Oh, he doesn't look very happy at all. So bring the mouth down a little bit. I think I might move the eyes in a tad like that. Smooth things in, and there we go. I might bring a bit more of a double chin down there. Oh, he looks mad. He looks very angry, but still kind of cute, I think. I think I might bring his tongue out a little bit. Oh, yeah. He kind of looks like, you know, if you've got like a parakeet or something, when they kind of have the little tongues that they stick out. I think he looks a bit like that, because his face is quite beakish. So I think I'm gonna gonna run with that. And that's the thing, this is one of the really great things about making things up as you go along, because if you do end up kind of accidentally stumbling on quite a fun little idea, you're not thinking, oh no, I should really, you know, stick to the concept. You can just be like, yeah, that looks cool. So there's the expression of our little Springer. So just bring the, bring the head up a little bit like this, because I'll be wanting the plates on his back to kind of overlap. I'll be digging those down a little bit. Bring these out slightly, and then you can smooth these up a tad. I'll be kind of digging into those plates, kind of bring them out a little bit, but I'm really starting to polish on the details. But just for now, I'm going to be adding some very tasty creases and things like that. You want to give... Ooh. Fix that as well. You want to be giving people enough stuff, because obviously, like, I'm sculpting these with painters in mind, so I want to give people enough texture and stuff to get their paintbrushes in. So I'm thinking that the goblin, when mounted, is probably going to sit here. So I'll be sure to make that quite thin so the goblin mount's legs can fit on there. So I'm just building up kind of the plates there, so they look like they're sticking out from the model. So I'd say that's pretty much blocked out. You can see on the other side there that it's completely mirrored what I've done on this side. Like I'll be spending a bit of time just making some of those lines a bit more crisp and things, but that's obviously not going to be as fun. So just for now I'll probably start moving on to the legs. But before that, I will take a bit of time to look at the comments. Hang on, just put the music back on. Are you guys hearing any music at all? Because it doesn't seem to be coming through my headphones. Jonas is saying, I don't remember seeing a flea sculpt. Must have been from the Menagerie blog days or even before that. Absolutely. Are the goblins separated from the bases? Yep, absolutely. So, oop. Oh no, not that one. Accidentally clicked on a Skyrim music then, and that would have gotten my video completely yeeted off. Are the goblins separate from the bases? Yes. So the goblins come without any kind of basing or stuff involved. Like I do include printable bases with them, and they're just plain ones at the moment. But I'm looking into doing potentially custom bases over the next few months if that's what the patrons want. The Fomorian is asking, what music are we currently listening to? It's a relaxing fantasy music playlist on YouTube that I found that's no copyright. Fingers crossed it is what it says it is, because I'd be quite upset if I end up getting kicked off. But I've used it before and there hasn't been any issues. So yeah, I can, if you drop me a message, I can definitely let you know what the playlist is. It's really nice. The Devonian era, yes it is, Jonas, thank you. Florian saying, I think to emulate the hand sculpting is a very good decision. I could not, I'm too lazy. Once Games Workshop started 3D in the mid-early 2000s, I thought they were soulless, and that changed, of course. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was very much in the same boat as you when I first started seeing a lot of digital sculpts hit the market. Like, I didn't feel like they had the same flair as the hand sculpt. I mean, obviously they were very good, but I didn't feel like it had the, as you said, the right soul. But I think in recent years, now that people have kind of got used to it and had a bit more time to practice, the artists have got much better, and I think, like, you definitely see as much quality, if not more so. Dagfin, this is quite mesmerizing to watch. Would be awesome to watch a screencast like this in super fast mode. Well, that's something I can probably do, because I can down. This is all being recorded and stuff and uploaded to YouTube, so it can be something I could potentially do a super sped up version. Chilling Wargamers, hello! Thank you for joining. Fomorian, what are you using for inspiration, and especially to get to the anatomy right of human-sized sculpts or animals for offline and digital sculpting? Well, I've always had an interest in animals, and ever since I was a kid, and I take a lot of the inspiration for my work from nature. As you can see, I'm sculpting a flea-inspired creature, but I really do think it helps add a lot of interest to your model if you kind of try and make it slightly believable in your monster sculpts. Like, try and think how they evolved, and that's something that I really try and do with my models. In terms of my human sculpts, like, I think I do kind of get away with a lot by having a very kind of cartoonish, stylized style. Like, I wouldn't say that my anatomy is human anatomy in particular is the best. Like, I don't spend hours and hours trying to get everything perfect. I kind of tend to go off, what feels right, and if something looks right, and if it looks like it's my style and stuff like that, I tend to just go with it. I think for a lot of aspiring sculptors, they can get so bogged down in getting everything perfect, but then they don't work on making it look fun, make it look interesting. Like, I think artistic license is one of the most important things when it comes to making really, really good art, because you can practice and make something photorealistic, and there is obviously a special skill in making something look as realistic as possible. But then what's interesting about that, other than just, oh, that looks just like it would be in real life? That's it. End of kind of interest. Whereas one of the great things about miniature sculpting, especially like at such small scales as 28mm or 32mm, is that even if you're trying to get something completely like accurate, you do have to make some allowances in terms of scaling things to make it look good that small. So there is definitely an art form in knowing exactly how big to make certain details or how to exaggerate certain things. And that's something I think is very important when making models for miniatures. Les likes the expression of the flea. Florian, are you using the key B to get to the brushes? Oh yeah, very nice. I didn't know that. Thank you very much. Not here long with things to do. Well, thank you for taking the time to come and join us, Spud. If that came bounding towards me, I'd be legging it the other way, and that's before I noticed the coupling. Mal, all good on the music. Music is fine, still get music. Music is quite loud now. Is it too loud? Blob. What's this? Ugh. That's a new one, but it's quite cool actually. If I was making anything Nurgle based, I think that would be quite useful. The music stopped. Is this better? Sometimes, because I'm using OBS at the moment, sometimes it can play little tricks on me. A bit loud. Better? Perfect. Bellissimo. everything's good. Thank you very much, guys. I always appreciate it when you give me feedback on the streams in terms of the quality of the stream. I obviously want to make it as engaging and as good as possible for you guys. It feels odd that because I started doing the weekly streams about 6 weeks ago now, and I've been really enjoying it. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying watching them. Like, I think, especially now that Digital Workshop is launched, I will definitely be kind of alternating the content between Arc World and Digital Workshop. Traditional sculpting, digital sculpting, painting. Like, I'll probably be doing some painting streams of the Digital Workshop stuff, because, like, I don't know, maybe you guys who back more Patreons could correct me, but in the research that I did beforehand, none of them really seem to do any kind of hobby stuff for their content. Like, it's just here's the model, print it off, there you go. Like, I'm not sure if there's any content creators that do like painting tutorials or how to do bases and things like that. And I don't know, like the hobby aspect is such an important part for me with the hobby, and it's definitely something that I'd like to incorporate lots of with the Patreon content, and you know, for Arc World as well. Move this down. Then I think I'll need that's all right just for now. Add a bit more detail in later on. Jacko says he's going to miss these streams when he has to go back to work. Yeah, sorry about that, buddy. Everything's recorded, so you can always watch it at your own leisure. Don't worry, you won't be denied. Mal-edges mean the good lady wife is actually watching you work. She's fascinating. It's a great... Fascinated, should I say. I'm sure she's fascinating as well. It's a great video, dude. Thank you. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. As I said, this is a bit of a new format for me. I've never done a kind of a digital sculpt along before, and I feel like it's a lot more... It's a lot easier to do than a hand sculpt along, because like having a camera kind of stuck in an awkward angle at your face isn't great, whereas with this, it just literally just share the screen. So it's something I'm most certainly going to be working on and doing in the future. Oak and Bronze, are you still going to keep doing the streams every Tuesday after lockdown eases or ends? I'd definitely like to. I think the only thing that's going to be a bit more difficult is at the moment I'm able to do these mainly because I've got my work set up here. So because I have a separate studio that I work in, and that's, you know, when lockdown happened and the gallery that I work in closed, I had to move everything home. So my half of our dining room table has had to have been my office for the past few weeks, and obviously that makes it a lot easier for me to just hop on and do a stream quite late. Unfortunately, when things go back to normal, you know, I'd have to definitely consider the length and time that I'd be doing them, because obviously, because it takes about 20 minutes to walk home from the studio. So if I did do it at the same time as I'm doing it at the moment, it would mean I wouldn't be getting home here until potentially 10:30, almost 11, depending on how long the stream goes. So it's something to consider, and perhaps I'd be able to do other content or think up other solutions. But without discretion, I would like to. Because I've been having a lot of fun doing this. I mean, when I'm doing new types of content, it can be kind of quite nerve-wracking and stressful. Like when I did the solo play Ark World stream, that was like, oh god, is it going to work? Is it going to work? And it did work, so I'm quite happy with that. And with this, I was quite nervous of how it would go, but this is actually very nice. It's nice to have some company while I work. It doesn't feel as much of like kind of a performance, I guess, as the other ones, because like I don't have a camera like on my face or anything. Dagfin, it's a brilliant thing to have a regular thing going and help dedicate hobby time. Painting streams would be awesome and a nice addition to sculpting. Maybe sometimes in the future you would do background or fluff streams just talking about the Ark World universe. Absolutely. I mean, I think that would depend on whether or not the interest would be there. Like, it could be quite a boring stream visually if I didn't have anything to kind of do to keep you guys interested. I mean, YouTube it's a visual platform, so I'd have to think of ways to kind of keep things interesting. Florian, most of the creators are delivering to RPG players. There are barely some from the tabletop wargaming world. Hobby stuff, painting and online sculpting sessions sound amazing. Wonderful. And it's something else that I've noticed with a lot of the kind of the other patrons out there, is that you don't ever really see the models painted. Like for me, like a model isn't finished until it's painted, and I think it really helps bring the sculpt together. But for and obviously that's very common in the tabletop industry, which is where I'm from. You know, it's where I cut my teeth. But in the kind of the RPG Patreon lands, none of them are painted, and I wonder whether that's because, as you said, painting isn't as much of an aspect of the hobby for a lot of these guys, or I don't know. So have any of you who are Patreon backers, have you managed to get prints of the goblins yet? SDL hoarders. I guess they won't need as much space as your wargaming lead mountain. Jacko asks, Alex, when you are making the mini, do you think about the colour, or do you think in colour? To be honest, no. Like, the colour kind of comes after it's finished. And that's like another puzzle to crack, as it were. Tiny Magic, first finish printing in about 20 minutes. Ooh. Well, definitely send me a photo, see how those goes. Lord Maiden, these certainly show to people what goes on in the background, and would love to see a regular feature happen permanently. Well, I'll certainly try my best, folks. That's all I can say. But, like, because I am, other than obviously the production and shipping side, which is I have the help of my wonderful parents, in terms of the creative side, it is very much me. So I really do have to kind of weigh up whether I'm able to or have the time to do regular content, because I'm not like a full-time YouTuber or anything like that. I'd love to, you know, get more involved with YouTube. I think my views are not really going up at the moment, but like not particularly bothered about views that much, because I do this mainly to kind of interact with the community, give you guys a bit of a glimpse into how the models you make, how models you buy are made. But it would be quite nice, actually. Ooh, no, cancel. Woohoo! Yeah, I think that works quite nicely. Few more spikes. So 3 streams per week for digital, offline sculpting and paint would be a nice TV program to have. Oh, absolutely. In an ideal world. In an ideal world, yeah, that would be great fun. Florian, do you have visual references while sculpting? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. For this, I'm kind of not using any references at all. I'm just kind of doing what feels cool and looks cool. But if I'm sculpting something that requires some kind of accuracy, like if it's a more recognizable animal, for example, I do. If I'm not completely confident in what it looks like, then I do try to use references, at least at first, until I get a feel of it. Like before we log off tonight, I'll show you guys the first wolf. Just kind of show you an example of what the other options for the goblins will be available next week. Not next week, sorry, next month. My dad is asking, Alex, are you using... are you doing this on your computer or on the laptop? I'm doing this on my big PC. So I've got I do have a laptop, but I'm not sure if it would be strong enough to run ZBrush. At least not to the capacity that I would require. I think if the Patreon does go mental and it does become a much, a big part of my income, I think I will probably invest in an all-singing, all-dancing beast. For Maureen, how would this flea bag attach to the base because of its thin legs? Lord Maiden, yeah, beat me to it. I'll probably be adding like a tree or something like that, just so it's much easier to stick to the base and kind of weight it down. So there's the fleas in. PC is doing well today as the graphics card. No, it's true. So the PC that I'm working on at the moment is quite old. So I originally bought it in 2014. So I think it was my first big purchase after my first Kickstarter, and I paid about $1,500 for it. So it was a big purchase. And actually, no, I paid $1,000 for it. Then I paid another £500 for my graphics tablet. That was it. And that was when I was still at university, so obviously there was a lot of moving about in terms of going backwards and forwards with my parents after term times and stuff. And one fateful move, unfortunately, it broke. So something in the graphics card fried. So we took it out, and I was thinking, oh god, that's going to cost so much money to replace, and it still worked. So the 6-year-old PC still completely runs ZBrush fine, does video editing fine. It's been absolutely wonderful. I mean, I think I would be up for upgrading it soon. Not getting a new PC, but maybe getting a graphics card in, or more RAM and stuff like that. Goblins, you mind? But yeah, it's been a brilliant machine. Yeah, I think this needs some Dynamesh. For those of you regular to the stream, I'm pleased to announce that Goblin has come to say hello. I think she's a little bit upset that there's nothing to knock over this time. But she's always very curious about what I get up to. For those of you who are new to the stream, Goblin is my Sphinx cat. She's made quite a few appearances on the streams over the past few weeks. So there we go. So those legs are looking, yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Like I'll probably so this will be like the first version, and when I do the second, so there'll be 2 wolves and 2 of these guys in July's pack. I'll probably add some kind of scratches and stuff like that to the carapace, just to give you guys something when you are painting these, something to pick up with your brushes. So back to the main body. Drop a save. Sorry, goblins are nibbling on my leg. So I think for this I will Oh no, it's just quite a bit of music. I was thinking, where's the music gone? There it is. Smoothing up those edges. Then go into it with the damn standard again. Too extreme there. There we go. Goblin, I know, honey. I know you want to get involved. Very nice. And then the final one. Bring those teeth out a little bit. Make the tongue a little bit more exciting. I don't know. What do you think, guys? Do you think I should have more kind of spikes on the carapace like that, or do you think I should keep it smooth? Say what you think in the chat. Wacko Gov is asking, if you could turn back time, would you rather have gone to Adepticon or learned this? Ooh, that's a very interesting question. Like I must admit, I'm very, very, very happy that I learned this, and I feel like it's really like a new step for my career. In terms of whether I got to Adepticon, like, I really wanted to go to Adepticon. Like, I really wanted to do. And, you know, I've lost hundreds of pounds on, you know, the flights. Like, I've applied for refunds. Not refunds, well, they said they couldn't give refunds. I've applied for vouchers, but who knows whether or not that's actually going to happen. Ooh. But to answer your question, I think overall, I'll be much happier learning this. Oh, goblin. I don't know, because one of the big things about going to Adepticon was, you know, kind of getting access to the American market, potentially meeting with kind of what are they called, like stores, retailers and stuff like that. Because I know I get a lot of my sales from the US, and if you are one of my American customers, thank you very much for your continued support. But I've been told a lot of the community in America tend to only buy from established retailers or distributors, especially if it's if it's international stuff. So my hope is to potentially expand into that market with Arcworld and make contacts with distributors out there, but obviously that didn't happen. But something else positive has kind of come from it, and there's always next year. Right, drop a save. So at the moment we have something that looks like this. Keep the front spikes. Okay, the chat has spoken, now I'll be keeping the front spikes. So this is where we are at. So what I can do now is take these and duplicate them function can provide multiple subdivision levels. Cool, that's fine. Oop, wrong one. There we go. Then duplicate this. Wrong one again. There we go. And then duplicate this. I think these need to be changed slightly, so I'll just go back. I'll delete this and then rotate this out slightly. Then duplicate it, and then mirror it, so it's got more of a base there. So in the end, or should I say at the moment, we have something that looks like this. So I think he's not too far off done. Like, I think, as I said before, I'll probably add a few little nicks and scratches, but I think I'll save that until I've kind of done another version. I'll be using this as a base to do the second one, so keep the same kind of items, but then add different posts and stuff like that. Well, yeah, I'm quite happy with how he's turned out. Now, probably start work on the kind of the rock that he's attached to, just so he's got a nice base. But before I do that, I'm going to go get a drink. Mal is asking, will you use the torsos, upper halves of your goblins on foot files for the top half of the riders to these gribblies and just sculpt some legs into that fit all? I think what I'll do is I'll actually sculpt some specific kind of full goblins with the whole legs, like the full pose, kind of leaning over, like warg style. Like if you guys have seen, like I think it's in the second, in the Two Towers, where with the warg riders, where they're kind of hunched over, kind of like jockey like. But I think I'll probably have a file where it is just the legs. So if you do want to kind of convert things, either pre or post printing, then you can stick one of the existing goblins, kind of chop the legs off and stick it on there. Right, so he's ready for some anchorage. So selected the wrong one again. So bring that down to here. Deformation. Wrong one. Then I'll rotate. Probably that, so it properly counterbalances. Nope. Then I'll start. So it doesn't matter particularly that it's a little bit rough at the moment. Like, I'm going to kind of trim the bottom so that it's nice and straight, so it'll kind of stick true onto the base. So it kind of looks a bit like that. I'll be using another tool called H Polish. That kind of gets quite kind of sharp edges. I try not to use it too much in my models, just to kind of keep that kind of handmade look, but seeing as this is like rock, it's quite useful. I think I'm going to extend this a little bit more this way. As you can see, there's lots of tearing and stuff like that there, so I'll be dynameshing it again. There we go. Then I'll use the damn standard just to kind of cut some kind of boulders and things there. So it looks a little bit like that. Let's move all this stuff down. As I said, I'll be trimming this Right, so I'm going to use this tool called Trim Rectangle. And then that just gives that flat base there. Now, one of the great things you can do when you're 3D printing, and you guys who are more veterans than I will know this already, but you can actually hollow out the file before you print it. So if you do have like a big chunky bit on the base, kind of like, you know, like this, you can make the model hollow so that it doesn't use up too much of your material. That's something that I use quite a bit because I'm stingy. But with 5 minutes to go on the clock, I would say he's pretty much done. And just about at the end, I'll do something quite cool that I learned the other day. So I can do a render, which kind of does a much higher quality version of it. Like that. Now, if you guys know, some of you are colourblind, so I'll do it in a kind of a neutral colour. So there we go. So thank you for joining me tonight for my digital sculpting hangout. I hope you've all learned something. I hope I've given you a bit of a glimpse into this new skill that I've learned, and I'm really excited to see where things go with this. Like, I've been really enjoying working on Digital Workshop over the past month, and I'm excited to see where things go. So for the final few minutes, if you do have any questions or anything you'd like to ask me before we log off, please comment in the chat. Les is saying, looks great. I've managed a couple of base coats. You've sculpted a whole mini, thanks. Ooh, I think that just a red ball 2 hours ago. Nice to know. Thank you very much, folks. Mal, quick, show us your shaman. You have to buy me a drink first. But let me just drop a save. So I'll show you quickly some more sculpts for July. So So this is what I was working on this morning. So for you folks who voted for Wolf as the mount for the goblins, I will be sculpting 2 wolves as well. So this is wolf number 1. I've yet to do the second one just yet, but I'll just do a quick render for you. There we go, and in white as well. Then what else have we got? That's very true, Lord Maiden. You did. Thank you. Mal at named your poison. Ooh. I'm quite, yeah, I've always been into rum. I like whiskey, although I've been drinking a lot of whiskey recently. So here is the Goblin Shaman. So he will be in the June pack as well. Then do a quick render. There we go. So he's the guy that's was in the kind of the thumbnail for the video, and he will be in the June pack. Rum will get along well. Oh, absolutely. Well, if we ever catch each other at a show, if there ever is another show ever again, definitely have to go out for a few drinks. And then the final one that I've got ready at the moment. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. Come on, old girl. There we go. So, this guy is a standard bearer for the goblins. So, render. So there you go. And then in white. So he will also be in June's set. So what I wanted to do is kind of have the base guys like in the first section, but then really start to have a bit of fun with the characters in the second set. So hope you enjoy what you see so far. If you're our Patreon backers, I've been really enjoying working on these, and I have so many more ideas coming in the future. This is incredibly exciting for me, and it's been really fun kind of really tackling this new medium. Thank you very much. I'm glad you liked the banner. Jacko's asking, have we got any shows lined up for later in the year? Well, this is the thing, like, I don't know. Well, at the moment, no, because they've all been cancelled. I mean, I'm still wanting to do another Arc World Weekender, but that very much depends on, you know, so many factors with the current situation that I just have nobody has any way of knowing what's going to happen. So at the moment, I'm just keeping my ear to the ground. Like there's a lot of chat going on in the kind of the community of miniatures company owners. Like we're all kind of chatting about what's going on and stuff. But I think the first show back for a lot of people, I think, is going to be a very special one, definitely. For more, maybe Spiel in Essen. Well, you know what? Depending on whether it's going ahead or not. I mean, I know you guys in Germany have dealt with this whole coronavirus situation a damn sight better than we have in the UK. So perhaps, because seeing as all my other shows this year have been cancelled, I may look into coming over. So I'll definitely be chatting with my German friends over the next few months and seeing what the situation is with that. But yeah, it'd be really fun. Right, so just showing you the rest of the sculpts I've been working on. We have gone a little bit over schedule, but not too much. So yeah, this is the end of the stream. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. I've actually found this setup with the screen sharing and the digital sculpting like really natural and straightforward. So I'd be 100% up for doing something like this again if you guys are interested. If you like the look of these models and haven't backed my Patreon yet, the link is in the description of the video. It's also in the kind of the banner of the video itself, patreon.com/Warploque miniatures, and you'll be able to get access to all of these files and more for your digital 3D printers at home. You can print as many of these as you want. The current pledge is $10 a month for everything that I make, and you can print that off as many times as you want. And I've been getting some photographs from you guys who've been printing them off, been getting really good results, which I'm really happy with, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where else I can go. So thank you very much, folks, for joining me tonight. Hope you're looking after yourselves, hope you're keeping healthy, hope your loved ones are keeping healthy, and I shall see you all again same time next week, 8 o'clock on Tuesday. Thank you very much, folks. Nighty night.